Genesis chapter 6, Beresheet, Perek, Vav. Vayhi ki hechel ha'adam larov al pnei ha'adama uvanot yuldu lahem. And it came to pass, when man commenced to multiply upon the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, Vayir'u b'nei ha'elohim et benot ha'adam ki tovot hena vayikhu lahem nashim mikol asher bacharu. And the sons of the nobles, this is interesting because it says b'nei ha'elohim, and this has been a subject of different interpretations or different translations. Some interpret it literally means the sons of God. Some interpret it as angels. Then the question would arise, these angels, are they compatible with human DNA? How would they reproduce with humans if they're angels? Are they even compatible? It's like a human being with an animal. I mean, maybe, but so there's a lot of questions with this verse. But I'll just read it. The way they translate it, this is the Chabad translation, is that the sons of nobles, so that could just mean even human beings with regular human DNA, so they could take daughters of man, but then the question would be, is that how are they differentiated from the daughters of man? If they're what makes them B'nai HaElohim as opposed to just people? So it's a question I'll leave open because I don't have the exact answer right now. But at any rate, just to be aware of this many interpretations for this verse here, this terminology of B'nai HaElohim. At any rate, et benot hadam ki tovot hena v'yikhu lahem nashim mikol asher bacharu. The sons of nobles, or sons of God, or sons of or angels, or certain kinds of people that were in this category called B'nai HaElohim, whatever that can mean, saw the daughters of man when they were beautifying themselves, or that they were good, they were beautiful, and they took for themselves wives from whomever they chose. Vayomer Adonai lo yadon ruchi ba'adam le'olam b'shagam hu basar v'hayu yamav me'a v'esrim shana. And the Lord said, let my spirit not quarrel forever concerning man, because he is also flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. Hanifilim hayu ba'aretz bayamim hahem. So some people would like to suggest, just taking a pause, that the product, the offspring of what came from this B'nai HaElohim, some say that they were rebel angels, some say that they were there's different interpretations again on what this B'nai HaElohim. I myself am not exactly sure exactly how to translate it, because there's many questions that come up. How is their DNA, if they are truly of an angelic species, so to speak, and they're like light beings, how can they be compatible with human beings who are flesh? I mean, unless these angels somehow were able to, in a rebellious way, create sort of an artificial or synthetic flesh, or be able to make their own DNA compatible with human DNA. It's a question that remains. I don't have the answer. But since this word Hanephilim is very close proximity to these B'nai HaElohim who took daughters of men, and it was concluded, it was derived from here, is inferences that the Nephilim, these giants, or whatever they are a product of that. Some kind of, I don't know, a freak kind of biological thing, but I don't know how to describe it, but like a Nephilim, like these giants or like hybrid of beings. Again, a Nephilim is something I don't exactly know how to translate either, but some translate as giants. Some say they were like a hybrid between a rebel angel and a human. Again, the DNA question comes up into mind. But anyway, הנפילים היו בארץ בימים ההם, וגם אחרי כן אשר יבואו בני האלוהים אל בנות האדם וילוד. Oh, here it says in the verse. You don't have to even infer it. It says it right here. יבואו בני האלוהים אל בנות האדם וילודו להם המה הגיבורים אשר מעולם אנשי השם. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of the nobles, they call it nobles, they don't explain what nobles are, would come to the daughters of man, and they would bear for them. They are the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. What does it mean that of old? I mean, this is during the early days of the earth. How old could it be already? I mean, are the early days of earth. So many questions that come up here in these verses that the text is ambiguous about, or is silent about, and left up for, I suppose it would be revelation of some sort. Okay. Vayar Adonai ki rabba ra'at hadam ba'aretz v'chol yitzer machshavot libo rak ra kol hayom. And the Lord saw that the evil of man was great in the earth, and every imagination of his heart was only evil all the time. Vayinachem Adonai ki asa et Adam ba'aretz v'yit'atzev el libo. And the Lord regretted that he had made man upon the earth, and he became grieved in his heart. Pause for reflection. Okay, this needs explanation. I've heard the question asked before. I've heard what I would consider an attempt, and I would think it's I don't want to use such a negative word, but not pathetic attempt, but like just an unsatisfactory attempt to answer it. For me, it's an unsatisfactory answer. It says that God regretted, and yet there's a verse in the very verse that says that God's not a man, and people quote. It says, Lo ish el v'yinachem, lo ben adam v'yichazev, something like that. It's in Genesis 23:19, I think. 24:19, 23:19. It's in the thing of Balak, of Bilam. When it says, let's pull it up right here very quickly, just while we're at it, because this particular series of Bible study is actually a little bit more reflective. It's like when I let my thoughts go and kind of comment on it. So, but before the other series, it was just reading verse, Hebrew, English, and that doesn't leave a lot for explanation, but I'm pulling it up right here. Numbers chapter 23 and verse 19 states, this is the Hebrew, Lo ish el v'yichazev uben adam v'yitnachem Hahu amar velo yaseh v'diber velo yikimena. God is not a man that he should lie, nor is he a mortal that he should relent. But that word v'yitnachem is the same word as in our verse here in Genesis. Okay? Uven adam v'yitnachem hahu amar velo yaseh v'diber velo yikimena. So the verse there in Numbers 23:19 says that God is not a man that he should lie, nor is he a ben adam, which means a human or mortal, that he should They translate relent, but it can be relent or change his mind. Vayitnachem, and let's compare that to our verse, where it says the Lord relented. Vayinachem, same word. Vayinachem Adonai ki asa et ha'adam ba'aretz vayitatziv el libo, and he was grieved in his heart. That's a whole other subject. It might take too long for here, but the question was, what is God's heart? What does it mean that God has a heart, and that he was? Because this is not the first time that it says El Libo. You have other places. I think in last week's Torah portion in Noah, and we didn't get to it yet in this series, but it says God said to his own heart. Why is he saying to his own heart? Why isn't he just saying it to us? Why is he saying it to his heart? Why does God want us to know that he is talking to himself? From a plain reading of the text, this is exactly what it looks like. It says, Vayomer Hashem el libo. God said to his own heart. And how are we supposed to understand that? If we're supposed to understand that. This is the word of truth, the word of life. This is God's word. We need to understand what it means when God says, and God said to his own heart. Why does he want us to know that he's talking to himself? That's a question I'll leave up for discussion for later on, but it's a good question. It's a question I've had for a long time, and I don't know that I have a real satisfactory answer to it. But this comes up again here, this verse. First, number one, the question is, Vayinachem Hashem ki asa et Adam ba'aretz. The Lord regretted that he made man. How can the Lord possibly regret something if he knows all things from beforehand? And then you have the rabbinic idea in the Chazal that Dibra Torah Kalashon B'nei Adam, that God sometimes, for our sake, speaks as a human would speak. So when God says that he regretted, he's actually making himself relatable to us, because we can regret something. We can do something and we regret it. But God, it's not possible for God to regret something in reality if he knows what he's going to do beforehand at all times. That's another very long discussion, and I don't know that I would be inclined to get a satisfactory answer, although as much as I would want to. But Vayinachem Adonai ki asa et ha'adam ba'aretz vayitatzev el libo, and he became grieved in his heart. Okay, let's continue, because we could be here forever if we keep stick on this. Vayomer Adonai, and God said, Emche et ha'adam asher barati mi'al pnei adama mi'adam ad behema ad remes v'ad of hashamayim ki nichamti. Again, that word, nichamti, ki asitem. How can God say that I regret that I made them if we just quoted a verse that says God does not regret? And I'm not the first one to ask this, and people have tried to answer this. I've heard this, for me, unsatisfactory answer of what it means for God to regret something. So I'm going to leave it open, and if I get a satisfactory answer, believe me, I'm going to share it. But for now, the thing that is going to hold me over is just to say that when God says he regrets, and actual regret from our definition is different, and when it says that God does not regret, it's saying that he doesn't regret in the way that a man regrets, but there is a way that God can regret, but it's not the way that a man regrets. That's the probably the best answer that will, for me to say. If someone would ask me, I would say this is the best I got right now. That in Numbers 23, it says that God does not regret because it's saying he's not a man. In that context, what it's saying is that he does not regret in the way that a man regrets. He certainly doesn't lie. That's plain forward, straightforward. But in the terms of regret, he doesn't regret in the way that a man regrets, because that verse is talking specifically about a man. Here, you're not talking about God in reference to a man. You're talking about God just, from the way I see it, by himself. In that case, he can regret, but his regret is different than a human regret. It's like a divine version of regret, which is not the human version of it, and it's not to be understood in the same way. And that's what I would answer. And maybe others have tried to answer that as well, something like that. But anyway, let's continue. And the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from upon the face of the earth, from man to cattle, to creeping thing, to the fowl of the heavens, for I regret that I made them. But Noach found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Ele toldot Noach. Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dorotav. Et ha'Elohim hitalech Noach. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. Tamim can also mean a few things. It can mean perfect. It can mean wholesome. It can mean innocent. Continuing on. V'yoled Noach shlosha banim et Shem et Cham v'et Yafet. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Cham, and Yafet. V'tishachet haaretz lefnei ha'Elohim, v'timalei haaretz chamas. Now the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth became full of violence, or Hamas could mean robbery. I mean, the translation of violence would be very appropriate in terms of what we know today from Hamas. Vayar Elohim et haaretz v'hineh nishchata ki yishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz. And God saw the earth, and behold, it had become corrupted, for all flesh had corrupted its way on the earth. Vayomer Elohim leNoach, Ketz kol basar ba lifanai, ki mala haaretz chamas mipnehem, v'hineni mashchitam et haaretz. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth has become full of robbery because of them, or full of violence because of them. And behold, I am destroying them from the earth. Aseh lecha tevat aseh gofer, kinim ta'aseh et hateva, v'chafarta ota mibayit u'michutz bakofer. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. You shall make the ark with compartments, and you shall caulk it both inside and outside with pitch. וזה אשר תעשה אותה 300 אמה אורך הטבע, 50 אמה רוחבה, ו30 אמה קומתה. And this is the size you shall make it: 300 cubits the length of the ark, 50 cubits its breadth, and 30 cubits its height. צוהר תעשה לטבע, ואל אמה תכלנה מלמעלה, ופתח התיבה בצידה תשים, תחתיים, שניים ושלישים תעשה. And you shall make a skylight for the ark. To a cubit you shall finish it to the top, and the entrance of the ark you shall place in its side. You shall make it with bottom compartments, second story compartments, and third story compartments. Va'ani hineni mevi et hamabul mayim al haaretz l'shachet kol basar asher bo ruach chaim mitachat hashemayim kol asher ba'aretz yigva. And I, behold, I am bringing the flood, water upon the earth, to destroy all flesh in which there is the spirit of life from beneath the heavens, that all that is upon the earth will perish. V'hakimoti et briti itach, ubata el hatipa, אתה ובניך ואשתך ונשי בניך איתך. And I will set up my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons, and your wife and your sons' wives with you. ומכל החי, מכל בשר, שניים מכל תביא אל התיבה, להחיות איתך, זכר ונקבה יהיו. And all living things of all flesh, two of each you shall bring into the ark, to preserve alive with you. They shall be male and female. מהעוף למיניהו, ומן הבהמה למינה. מכל רמס האדמה למיניהו, שניים מכל יבואו אליך להחיות. Of the fowl after its kind, and of all the animals after their kind, of every creeping thing upon the ground after its kind, two of each shall come to you to preserve alive. ואתה, קח לך מכל מאכל אשר יאכל, ואספת אליך, והיה לך ולהם לאוכלה. And you, take for yourself of every food that is eaten, and gather it into you, and it shall be for you and for them to eat. ויעש נוח ככל אשר ציווה אותו אלוהים כן עשה. And Noah did according to all that God had commanded him, so he did.